DutyRon back here again with another video, and today we're going to report on the overnight coronavirus deaths here in New York, which topped 799 overnight. A very grim, a very sad, sobering number. Again, many days in a row we've had these similar numbers, and it is a grim reminder that we are here in the middle of a pandemic fighting for our lives. So I just want to welcome Winky Whispers. Thank you so much. First one in. Hello, Darlene, Dr. Sexy. Thank you to all my channel members, all of my Patreon supporters, and all the people who come in and day out and support my channel. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. All one word, DutyRon, on all social media. Hello, Darlene. Hello, Crispy. Good to see you, Andrew. I'm doing well. I have the day off due to the Passover holiday. And to all of my Jewish friends out there, a happy and a healthy Passover. I hope we are, again, we're going to be home on Easter. My sister-in-law is making the Easter pies, and we're going to just pass them out on each other's doorsteps, and we will be separately celebrating Easter this year as Catholics. Thank you, Nellie Bell, for coming in. Donna, Just Being Real, thank you for joining. This broadcast is going to be mainly information from New York State Governor Mario Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. Wow, that was a Freudian slip. That's his father who has passed on. It's going to be from Andrew Cuomo. He's got some information that is sobering. I know you are. I know you are from New York, Donna. Thank you for being in here. I appreciate all your support and your kind words that you leave. Gail B., great to see you. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to keep the conversation about DutyRon and talk about what's going on here in the current state of affairs. Overnight, 799 deaths reported in the state of New York. So it is a very unfortunate number. It's a very sobering, a very serious number, and we are on the flattening of the curve, but unfortunately we are seeing deaths in numbers. Yesterday it was 769, I believe, or 779, and today it was almost 800. My neighbor just a few doors down, her brother, 43 years old, passed away this morning. He was on a ventilator. He contracted coronavirus. I don't know how or what he did for a living, but that's Diane Dookie 4000's direct neighbor right across the street. She was asking for prayers in her Facebook channel. My neighbor Kathy's brother passed away, Michael. So my heart and my prayers go out to my next door neighbor on the loss of her brother, 43 years old. Succumbed to the COVID-19 this morning. He was on a ventilator in ICU for several days. So my heart and prayer emojis in the chat for my neighbor Kathy and her brother Michael. So again, these are sobering times. These are sad times. Many people are affected by this, and we're losing people. 800 almost deaths here in the state of New York alone. So it is a terrible situation. I will, Darlene, I'll send her warm regards from everybody, and thank you for the prayer emojis. So I'm going to jump right into it. This is about 35 minutes of very good information. Lamar, thank you so much for being in here. Thank you for the sympathies and the prayers. Crispy, Heidi, Leahy, thank you for joining. Michelle Vogel, all the great ones are here. Matty Boy, Sully, thank you for being in on the chat. I'm going to keep this to a minimal, but I did want to say hello to everybody. It's a gloomy day. I've got the shades pulled. It's raining out, and I am home. So I'm gonna roll the video so you guys can see, and I'm gonna silence the mic. So thank you to anyone who has given or will give super chat during the course of this or become a channel member. Please consider becoming a channel member. I think as low as $2 a month, you could become a channel member and get your name in green, just like Boxing MMA, Maddie Sully, Winky Whispers, Lamar Watkins, and a bunch of others in here in the chat have their name in green. That's by becoming a channel member. So thank you for that. Let's segue over to the second screen and we'll get it going.
I think it's important to take an overall look at where we are, the context, the perspective.
This is from 11 o'clock this morning,
see a shift,
Eastern.
And I want to make sure that people actually keep the shift in perspective and understand where we are in the scope of our journey through the situation. It's been 18 days since we closed down New York. I know it feels like a lifetime. I tell my daughters every day, it's only 18 days since everything closed down. It's 39 days since the first COVID case in New York. Feels like a lifetime. It's 80 days since we had the first COVID case in the United States. 80 days. Been an intense, life-changing 80 days, but that's what it has been. When we started this situation that we are still in the midst of, before people get complacent, the end of March, the White House task force, coronavirus task force, was still talking about 1.5 to 2.2 million deaths, okay? Their best case scenario with quote-unquote mitigation efforts was 100 to 240,000 deaths in the United States, which is breathtaking. For New York, there are a number of models that were put out that we are following. The most frightening was Columbia University that said we could have 136,000 people in New York City only who would be hospitalized, not infected. We had the McKinsey model, which suggested 110,000 people could be hospitalized statewide. We had a second scenario from McKinsey, which is 55,000 people hospitalized. And then the Gates Foundation, thank you very much, funded the IHME study, which said a high point of 73,000 statewide. Any of these scenarios are devastating for New York, because remember, we only have a 53,000 bed capacity system statewide, 36,000 beds in New York City. So any of these scenarios are problematic. Luckily, the current trend, if it continues, and if we continue the flattening of the curve, we're at about 18,000 people hospitalized right now. We've increased the capacity of the system dramatically. We have moved pieces around the state like never before. Our healthcare system has done a phenomenal job in doing an insurmountable task. Our federal partners, the Army Corps of Engineers, they have just really all done a great, great job. And our theory, and I believe my job as governor, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Now, we're at about 90,000 bed capacity in our overall system today, with everything we've done. Even the 90,000 beds, as you see, doesn't compare with the most problematic scenarios. 90,000 beds, we can handle the McKinsey moderate scenario. We don't make the McKinsey severe scenario at 110,000. I believe that 90,000, we have a plan to get to 110, converting dormitories, et cetera, but it would be a massive undertaking and a massive scramble. We do make the Gates-funded projection model. The Columbia University model, we can never. That would just be a nightmare. That is the one that keeps me up at nights, because you couldn't get anywhere near that projection. But all of the statisticians also said, look, we don't know how effective you can be at closing things down and social distancing, because we've never done it before. But they all said that's the chance to so-called flatten the curve if you actually got people to comply with all these measures, and we have never seen it done before in this country, and we don't know if you can do it. So that is the big if in the equation. And that remains the big if in the equation. You can flatten the curve. We are flattening the curve by what we're doing, and we're flattening the curve so far. We should all be concerned, especially New Yorkers. Well, we're flattening the curve. That's good news. It is good news. Well, now I can relax. No, you can't relax. The flattening of the curve last night happened because of what we did yesterday and the day before and the day before that. This is all a direct consequence to our actions. If we stop acting the way we're acting, you will see those numbers go up. And I show the projection models because we can't handle the worst case scenarios. We can't even handle the moderate case scenarios with all we've done. So it is essential that we keep that curve flattened because we don't have an option of handling the curve if it goes higher. The additional good news is the hospitalization rate does suggest that it's coming down, and we are flattening the curve. We had 200 net increase in hospitalizations, which you can see is the lowest number we've had since this nightmare started, actually. Change in ICU admissions is the lowest number we've had since March 19th or so. So all of this data suggests that we are flattening the curve so far, and the numbers are coming down so far. Number of intubations is down. 3-day average on intubations is down. So far, our efforts are working. They're working better than anyone projected they would work. That's because people are complying with them. You know, there are always two questions. Can you enact these policies? And then can you enact the policies in a way that people will follow? You know, we can enact a policy and people thumb their nose to it and continue doing what they're doing. So there has to be a social acceptance and adherence to the policy. And New Yorkers are doing that. They're acting responsibly and diligently, and we are saving lives by what people are doing today. Our expression has been New York tough because every day is tough on many, many levels. I get it. But every day that we are New York tough, we are actually saving lives. And don't underestimate this virus. I think that is a mistake we made from day one. We as the collective we as the global community. This virus is very, very good at what it does. We lost more lives yesterday than we have to date. We understand, and all the experts have said, Dr. Fauci said from day one to me, you will see the deaths increasing after the hospitalizations because the deaths increase the longer a person is in the hospital, the longer a person is on the ventilator. I understand the scientific concept. I understand the data. But you're talking about 799 lives, the highest number ever. It's gotten to the point, frankly, that we're going to bring in additional funeral directors to deal with the number of people who have passed. If you ever told me that as governor I would have to take these actions, I couldn't even contemplate where we are now. And to put all of this in perspective, I lived through 9/11. 9/11 was supposed to be the darkest day in New York for a generation. We've done everything we can since 9/11 to make sure 9/11 didn't happen again. We lose 2,753 lives on 9/11. We've lost over 7,000 lives to this crisis. That is so shocking and painful and breathtaking. I don't even have the words for it. 9/11 was so devastating, so tragic. And then, in many ways, we lose so many more New Yorkers to this silent killer. There was no explosion, but it was a silent explosion that just ripples through society with the same randomness, the same evil that we saw on 9/11. What do? We move forward and we do the work that we need to do. We're going to start an effort called New York Loves, which is going to be a coordination of all the charities and not-for-profits and foundations and people who want to help. There's been a tremendous outpouring of support from organized not-for-profits, et cetera, but also people just wanting to donate, people just wanting to help. The best effort is if we can coordinate all those resources to make sure there's not duplication and we're actually addressing the right need. So the State Department of State, Rosanna Rosado, Secretary of State, and Fran Barrett, who coordinates not-for-profits, we will coordinate all the people who want to donate and help, and we'll work with the local governments that need help. Also, let's learn the lessons of what we're going through now, because we haven't finished going through it. Let's learn how and why this virus kills, especially why we have higher fatality rates among African Americans and Latinos.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everybody.
What we do
Thanks for
about
joining.
it. Let's understand it, but let's also address it. We're going to be doing more testing in African American and Latino communities with more data. We're going to open new testing sites, primarily in African American and Latino communities. With
Muppets and Manilow, thanks for joining.
Albany,
Kalo, thanks.
Department of Health, Northwell,
Wahid, salam.
collect the test results, but also collect the information that we need to come up with policies to fix this. Where
Hi,
do
Gemma.
people live? Where do people work? What's their socioeconomic status? Where do they socialize? What are their previous health conditions? Why do we have these higher rates, and what do we do about it? And let's do that now. Rapid testing and testing is going to be the bridge to the new economy and getting to work and restarting, right? We're not going to go from red to green. We're going to go from red to yellow. Yellow is let the people who can go back to work start going back to work. Well, how do you know who can go back to work? Test them. You have rapid testing capacity. We have to bring it to scale. We have to bring it to scale quickly. And that's something that the state is working on as well as the federal government. Let's also find a treatment for this disease, convalescent plasma, which is plasma from people who were infected that can be then used to treat people who get infected. We need that plasma from people who were infected. We're starting a blood drive and asking those who have recovered from the virus to contact us and to donate blood so we can develop the convalescent plasma treatment. And there's a website on the screen that they can go to help. We also have to be prepared and stay prepared. We have to have the supplies. We have to have the right laws. We have to have the right procedures. Because remember, the 1918 Spanish flu came in 3 waves. We're on the first wave. Everybody is assuming, well, once we get through this, we're done. I wouldn't be so quick to assume that. This virus has been ahead of us from day one. We've underestimated the enemy, and that is always dangerous, my friends. And we should not do that again. There's an article in the LA Times that says the communities that have dealt with this before, like Wuhan, Singapore, are now seeing a second wave of infection. There is a theory that this virus can mutate and change and come back. So this is not, we're in a battle, right? But this is about a war, and we're only on one battle here. Even once we get through this battle, we have to stay prepared for what could come down the road. And we also have to start to repair the immense damage. Before you start talking about restarting the economy, you're going to have to address the damage that is done to society today, which is intense. the economic damage. People who are now living in poverty. I mean, people have been without a check, without a job for weeks. And most people in this state live paycheck to paycheck. And all of a sudden, the paycheck stops. We're doing everything we can on the unemployment benefits and increasing the unemployment benefits, but you have families that are in true economic hardship and are impoverished because of this situation. What do we do with the housing market? Our healthcare system, we have pushed to the max. We have pushed people to the max. We have pushed facilities to the max. We have beds in lobbies, in conference rooms, in hallways. I mean, we did what we had to do to be ready, but we have done a lot of damage in the midst that has to be undone. So that's something that we're working on immediately. And we need the federal government to be responsible, and we need the federal government to pass legislation that helps. We have to stabilize state and local governments across this country. New York State has had the highest number of cases by far and away. Our costs have been the highest in the country. The past legislation that was enacted, we were told would bring $6 billion to health care. When we did our state budget a couple of weeks ago, we believed what they said, and we thought we were looking at $6 billion in health care funding. Turns out, when we actually read the language, it was about $1.3 billion to the state of New York, which is much different than $5 or $6 billion. And the funding disqualified 1/3 of New York's Medicaid recipients, which nobody said. You know, and to our federal representatives, I spoke to Senator Schumer, I spoke to Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you, Mary.
This is no
I hope you're fair and okay, and
politics.
welcome to everyone joining. I'll be back at the end of this.
To enact the legislation that actually addresses the need. And I was in Washington for 8 years. I get how the political process works in Washington, not here and not now, my friends. We also have a significant mental health issue that comes with what we've done, the isolation, the disorientation. It's a growing problem. We have a growing problem with a number of domestic violence cases. If you need help during this highly stressful period, and I suspect more people need help than acknowledge that they need help, we have a support hotline. We have thousands of people who have volunteered to help, and people should reach out and ask for it. We have to stay ahead of this virus. We're watching Rockland, Nassau, and Suffolk. The numbers have come down in New York City. But you look at the concentric circles around New York City, the natural spread, the natural concentric circles are towards the suburban communities, Westchester, Rockland, Nassau, Suffolk. Westchester, we've had problems already. One of the first hotspots in the nation was New Rochelle in Westchester. Now we're seeing numbers creep up in Rockland, Nassau and Suffolk. The numbers are creeping up, so we're watching those areas next. We sent additional equipment last night. And the overall point is, look, you stay at home and you save a life, period. You stay at home and you save a life. And I know New Yorkers, I'm born and bred. The instinct is, well, this is good news, now I can relax, because by the way, I've been dying to relax and get out of the house and end this Groundhog Day reality. Yeah, you're not out of the woods. And now is not the time to misunderstand what's happening.
This is important.
We have done great things, and we have saved lives because we have followed these policies. The moment you stop following the policies, you will go right back and see that number shoot through the roof. And we are not prepared to handle the highest numbers in those projection models. Whatever we do, you can't take a 50,000 bed system and get it to 136,000 beds. It's an impossibility. And I'm a person who never says no and believes New York
Amen to
can
that,
do
Mahid.
anything
Amen.
if we try. I'm telling you, we have to keep that curve flat. Today we can say that we have lost many of our brothers and sisters, but we haven't lost anyone because they didn't get the right and best health care that they could. The way I sleep at night is I believe that we didn't lose anyone that we could have saved. And that is the only solace when I look at these numbers and look at this pain that's been created. That has to be true. And that has to continue. And that is a function of what each and every one of us does. So, New York tough? Yes, we're tough. But tough means we're smart, we're disciplined, we're unified, and we're loving. And if you don't want to stay home for yourself, stay home for someone you love, right? That's what the stay-at-home campaign is all about. You want to have reckless disregard for your life? It's not about your life. It's about the healthcare worker who will have to treat you in the emergency room. It's about the vulnerable person who you infect, who you could kill by your actions. Sometimes it's not about you, right? It's not about me, it's about we, and that's where we are. Questions?
Do we need nursing homes just for COVID patients?
I'm sorry?
Do we need nursing homes just for COVID patients?
No, I don't think we
I'm just going to let a few questions go because there's a lot of stupid ones here, so I'm just going to let a few go.
Unemployment nationwide and hundreds of thousands here in New York. We've gotten consistent reports that they can't get through to operators at the New York State Department of Labor. This has been going on for weeks. What sort of assurances can you offer residents that they can get these benefits, particularly in times of economic hardship?
Yeah, look, the technology at the Department of Labor, the system just crashed because of the volume, right? It's one of those unanticipated consequences of a situation like this. And again, Jesse, nobody's been here before. We'll learn for the next time, but yeah, you have a government shuts down the private sector economy. You have millions of out of work. The next shoe to drop is going to be millions of people call in for unemployment benefits, crashing the system that handles the unemployment benefits because you've had a 100-fold increase, which is what has happened. We have 1,000 people who are now working on just personnel for that incoming system. Think about that, 1,000 people who are working on processing applications for unemployment benefits.
And it's still backed up. You can't even get through,
that was like
from what I
the number
understand.
we used to get of
In
applicants.
New York, you
Now
can't
we have
even get someone on the
1,000 people
phone.
processing applications. We're working with Google to come up with an online mechanism that bypasses any phone certification. The phone certification was important because you want to make sure that people who are applying are also qualified. So we're doing everything.
7 p.m. These claims have been successfully
You didn't get through on Monday and you didn't get through until Thursday. Melissa's been working on the system. You want to give an update?
Sure.
This is
so
his
just
daughter.
to give everybody a little bit of context, these numbers will come out later today, but last week there were 350,000 unemployment
This
claims
is the governor's
in New York.
daughter.
Going back to March 9th, we're at 810,000 unemployment claims. So far, 600,000 of those claims have been successfully processed, so you've got over 200,000 that are still in partial status. What happens is you go online, you fill out the application. If you fill out the application in full, you're done. If you leave any of the fields blank, what's been happening is they tell you call the system. So you call the system to follow up. That's what then caused the crash in volume, and then the system goes down. As the governor said, we've been working with Google. Today, between 5 and 7 p.m., the system is going to go down to reboot. 7 o'clock, the new application goes online. It's streamlined. There are fewer questions. And once you get to the end of that, if you successfully fill it out, it's going to say you're finished with the application process. If there's any information that's left blank, it's going to say don't call us, We will call you within 72 hours. And DOL, as the governor said, now has 1,000 people on the phone lines. They're going to be reaching out directly to the people so that people don't have to go through this infuriating process of calling and getting busy signals and thereby collapsing the system. So hopefully starting today after 7 o'clock, the system will be much better streamlined. But as the governor said, it's a volume issue that we've never experienced.
Last night you acted to freeze the pay of state workers. Can you talk about why you decided to do that, and also where do you derive that power to essentially break the union contract?
Yeah, I'll ask Rob Mahika to speak about the financial stress that the state is under. But look, so many of these things we've never seen before. What are you going to do about it? I can't just sit here and say I'm efficiently operating the state when I know we don't have money to pay the bills that we're incurring right now. Issue really, that's a national issue, but I think it's highly problematic.
Is there any theory as to why there are an increased number of cases on Long Island and in Rockland County? A lot of New York City residents, when
It's a good question. Why is there an increased number of cases in Long Island and up in Rockland?
Part of the reason why there's an increase?
I think if you look at the numbers, forget the second home theory. It's going to be people from Suffolk come into work into New York City. People from Rockland come into work in New York City and have been, it's a suburban community. Parts of Rockland and Suffolk are bedroom communities, so to speak, for New York City. So that's going to far outweigh any second home theory, just in terms of numbers. Nick?
I know the state's gotten some support from other states when it comes to ventilators.
All right, so I'm not going to let you guys continue to listen to these now. After this part, it just becomes silly with the questions. So, I feel that a lot of people outside of New York City, like Nassau County where I live, and Suffolk County, Westchester and upstate, a lot of the COVID-19 patients, yes, most people commute to the city and work in New York City, where you have almost 9 million people in Manhattan and New York City in a 314 square mile space. Yes, you're going to get massive amounts of people infected in that small condensed area with that many, with the density, with that many people. So yes, you're touching everything on public transportation. You're taking train to the subway, to maybe a bus, or to a cab in the street. There's so many different variables on the spread, and the reporters just keep asking the same questions over and over again. So I'm going to spare you guys the reporters' questions about the spread. The fact of the matter is that, they're doing a lot of testing. And when you do a lot of testing here in New York, you're going to get a lot of positives, but you're also going to get a lot of negatives. They don't speak about the negative tests. They speak about the positives. There are so many people who have had this disease and it's taken its course and gone through them, and they've just battled it off and not even reported it. The numbers could be double and triple, or who knows, maybe even more than what's being reported right now. So I'm going to go to the model, what I always show you guys. I'm going to go to the world model. This might be a little frightening for some, but I think it's important that we see this. Let me take me down here, get that out of the way. Oscar's scratching to come in the kitchen. I'm not gonna let him in. So here's the worldwide cases. Mrs. DutyRon let Oscar in. He's got to get his water. 1,447,414 with 91,783 deaths. A sobering fact, that is for sure. Definitely a sobering fact, a sobering reality, if you will. I, for one, I try to stay away from these numbers. I try not to look at them. But 344,467 recoveries. These numbers are astronomical, and this is worldwide. I'm going to go to the state, the United States, which is down here. The New York cases confirmed here, this is just for the state of New York, is 78,000. 221 confirmed cases with 7,000, a little bit over 7,000 deaths. And my neighbor Kathy and Frank, her brother, was one of those casualties in that 7,000 number right there. So that's for New York State. If we look at the counties, Nassau, which is where I live, there's 18,548 cases. It's a high number of cases for a small county of Nassau. 566 deaths. And Suffolk County, which is larger than Nassau but further east of New York City. You know, we border New York City, so we're close to the city. I'm like a 30-minute car ride to New York. Suffolk is further away. It's 17,008 cases with 323 deaths. So that's what we're looking at with statewide. California, let me just see what we're looking at here. Hold on a second. California's got 19,000 cases. So the cases are slow to reach across the West Coast, but I hope they're wrong in their predictions, because what they're talking about is that eventually it's going to creep up over there, which I hope that they're wrong in that regard. The United States has 363,851 cases. 363,851 cases on a refresh, because it wasn't coming up. There it is. There's the figure. I finally got it up there. So this is for all 50 states, with 15,774 souls lost. 24,790 have recovered. These are sobering numbers, and this is the reason why you have to stay at home, stay alive, social distance, wear the mask out in public now is what the CDC is recommending. Put on gloves, wear the mask when you're outside. If you have to go out to get groceries, we all need to survive with food and water and whatever the necessities. When you have to get the necessities, you got to go out, right? So if you have to go out, make sure you are make sure you take the proper precautions. I wash my hands 1,000,000 times a day. If I touch something that I think is contaminated, whether I know it is or not, anything that I touch outside of this protected zone, which is my house, the only ones that are coming in here is me and my wife and my two boys, and we clean the crap out of everything here as well. But you know, I'm going as far as opening mail in a separate zone on my countertops, my granite countertops, so I could wipe it down with disinfectant. So I open my mail on the countertop in one specific location, and that's how much precautions I'm taking now. Is, you know, when I take in items, mail, packages, I open them in that one area, I discard them, and then I disinfect that area, and then I clean my hands. So that's how. I haven't gassed my car up in 2 weeks, but when I go to gas up, I'll have gloves on or use some type of device to hold the gas pump, and I will disinfect after I pump the gas before I get in the car. So our lives have changed. All of our lives have changed. And, you know, before this, I was a germphobe to begin with. So it doesn't make anything different for me. I just do it more. I kind of just clean more. But I was always a germphobe anyways. So for us germphobes out there, if you want to raise your hand, for all of us germphobes, we're already on it. We're just now on steroids, germphobes on steroids. Thank you so much for the super chat, Josh. Appreciate that. Thank you for that $5 super chat. Greatly appreciated. These videos are starting to get monetized by YouTube, but all of the videos that I did up until this point, 99.9% of them have been demonetized. So those super chats, the channel memberships, the Patreon support, all of that stuff helps. You know, I do put a lot into putting in these broadcasts. It takes a lot of time.
Thank you for the super.
I use a lot of equipment. Josh knows I upgrade my equipment. I upgrade my equipment all the time. Thank you for Josh's work, Sleeping Beauty, Boxing MMA, Winky Whispers. Thank you for the germphobe. Hands up with the germphobe. Diane, I know you are a germphobe too. Got antiseptic wipes in the car. Yes, I have a whole system set up. I was a freak of nature before this when it came to cleanliness. Now it's just on steroids. And for good reason. So remember to be safe when you're out there. If you touch anything that's outside of your protected zone, and even if you do touch something inside your protected zone, if you are questionable about it, it's better to be safe than sorry. So clean yourself, clean the things around you, clean the car doorknobs, the handles, the gear shifter, the turn signal, anything that you touch. Just remember, anything that you touch, you have to clean. So that's the world that we're living in right now. Whether that'll ever change, I don't know. I hope that in the future it will get, just like anything else, it loosens up a little bit. But I don't see us back to the days where we're hugging complete strangers when we meet them or shaking hands. I think the fist bump or elbow bump, right now, elbow used to be fist. I won't be doing that anymore. It'll be more so of an elbow bump or something like that. So I think, it remains to be seen, but I feel that things, the way we have known it in the past is going to be a little different. And sitting at a ballpark, I don't know about you guys, but Citi Field, I'm a New York Mets fan for baseball. I know we probably have a couple of Yankee fans in here and stuff like that. It's going to be weird for me to sit next to a complete stranger in a ballpark. I can't even think about it right now. I get anxiety thinking about it. So right now that's off the table for me, at least for me. And what am I going to do? Do I go to the ballpark and sanitize all the seats? The places where I lean. Because in the summer you're going to have short sleeve shirts on. Sometimes you go with tank tops. With a cut off shirt. You got to touch your skin, and your body's going to touch everything. So it's a whole freak show for me. But it is what it is, man. We just got to get through this, and we're going to get through this together. The numbers are starting to decline here in New York, and that's a good thing. I'm not happy, and nobody should be, about 800, almost one shy of 800 deaths overnight. I wake up in the morning, and it's like I almost have to drag myself to go and look at the numbers. So, hi, sweet crazy, how are you? I drag myself to the computer, and I'm dreading looking at the numbers, but I do look at them. I have to look at the numbers because I need to know what's going on. Any of you guys, suffering from any type of anxiety or stress, my recommendation is not to look at this stuff. Don't go looking at the news. Don't go looking at the numbers. Just stay safe. Keep yourself safe. Keep in contact with positive people who are going to uplift you. Do not hang around with negative Nellies or people who are like, this is terrible. Oh my God. Anybody that's going to get on the phone with you and start that kind of stuff, try to limit that conversation or cut it short. This is just my suggestions. You don't want to be around someone that's telling you bad and negative things. You need to have someone that's going to lift you up and give you some strength and positivity. Just a recommendation. This isn't Bible. This is just my recommendation to my friends. And those of you who know me, you can go over to my YouTube video share group or my police and crime chat group or the Discord group, and you can DM me personally, Josh, or any of the dozens and dozens of people who are interacting in those areas, especially the Discord. You can go in Discord at 3 a.m. and send out a cry for help, and you'll have somebody there to answer you. I can guarantee you that. Between Joey Brooklyn, Winky's up all night, Black Rose, Josh stays up late because he's in California, Daphne, who I'm surprised is not here, and Beth. There's so many great people. Trevor's in there. In the Discord, you can send out a message in the middle of the night. Someone will get back to you. So thank you, Faithful One. Tracy Van Bragg, thank you so much. Anyone coming into New Zealand now are put into mandatory quarantine. There you go. Kia ora to my good friends in New Zealand. I know that every country has a different thing. We had a vacation planned annually. We go in May to Aruba. That's canceled. Aruba's not even allowing anybody to come inside their country, from outside the country. The borders in Aruba, which is a big vacation spot, is closed indefinitely. There's no end in sight. I think they only have 74 cases. They want to keep it low. They want to keep it that way. So their borders are closed. Our vacation is canceled. I don't mind. I don't think I'd feel comfortable going on vacay right now. So that's about it. That's my update for the day. I've been watching some broadcasts and watching some people on YouTube going at it with the drama and stuff like that. And right now, we have 800 people who died overnight in one state in the United States. We have thousands of people. Look at the figure I have up here. Look at these figures that we have for the United States. 363,000 cases, almost 364,000, close to 16,000 deaths in the United States. Why do you need to be talking about drama and fighting amongst each other? Women fighting with each other. I stumbled across 2 broadcasts last night and it made me sick because these women and men, but mainly women, are in these chats arguing and fighting over bullshit, over nonsense. And for me, the people that are in there, there's hundreds of people watching, 200-300 people watching at a time during when we have 363,000 coronavirus cases throughout the United States. We're in a pandemic. We're fighting for our lives. And I go onto YouTube to try to see what everyone's up to just kind of socialize. We're social distancing. We're at home. So it's 10, 11 o'clock last night. I go to look and I see this bullshit. And I see some of the people who are in this chat or that come around with me in there partaking in it. And it just blows my mind. This is not a time for negativity and sitting there in a petri dish of toxic, vile shit. So for me, I recommend you guys stay away from that. And I'm not saying to stay away from the people who do that. If you like those people, you can always resume it after this goes away. But for those of you who are in there, it's not anything healthy that you're partaking in. And that's just my 2 cents on that. Again, look at these numbers. Look at the numbers. These are what we should be putting at the forefront of what we should concentrate on doing. Not having a bunch of negative Nellies all around you, helping to just effectively put you in more of a depressed state. So much love and respect from my house to yours. As I always end these videos now, God bless the world, and God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay connected. Guys, I'll talk to you soon on the next one. Thank you for joining, and please subscribe to my channel and follow me on all social media. One word, DutyRon. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Thank you, and have a great evening.